Hey up folks, I'm Guy Kestevan, the Tester Man, and I've been testing mountain bikes and kit since 1996. And this is my workshop chat on Pivot's Trailcat LT. Right, so what you're not going to get is ride impressions or geometry information because I've covered all that in the live ride review from Boltby Bash Enduro, which is already up on the site. So, if you want to know how this bike rides, get on there because there's a lot to unpack on there. And I did talk a little bit about the frame details and features on there, but that is where to go if you want to know how this bike rides live from the trail. This is going to cover the kit on the bike, and you're probably going to think, crikey, that doesn't seem much for, I mean, it's decent kit, but for a bike that's just shy of 10k here in the UK, you might not be right impressed. However, then we're going to look at some of the frame and design details on what is an absolutely beautiful bike. And that is when you might start thinking, if you're lucky enough to be able to afford a bike like this, that the Pivot Trailcat might be exactly the mid-travel 29er that you're after. Right, so we'll start off with spec, and to be fair, we're not doing bad on the suspension, are we? We've got Fox 36. It's previous gen. It's not the very latest one with the new crown and everything on it. I imagine they'll upgrade to that as and when it becomes available. You just need to check on spec before buying. But you have got the Grip X2 damper in there. And once it's tuned right, basically run less air pressure. Well, this is my recipe. Run less air pressure, and then you actually get to use the damping. It is a very, very impressive high control fork. Not the plushest or most comfortable, but if you're really rattling hard, that's a great fork. Then you've got Fox Flotex factory again, piggyback shock on the back. That gives 135mm of travel on this LT. There's an SL version with 120mm of travel, and I've kind of covered the detail on that in my live ride review, but my basic takeaway on that is it comes with a progression spacer in it it doesn't need, and it's overdamped, certainly for a lighter rider looking for a more fluid ride. But you might not agree with that. Again, go watch the live ride video. And then for once, which you don't always get, we at least get a nice colour matched collar and cuffs Kashima factory transfer seat post on there in a good length, and because you've only got a 432mm seats tube on this bike. And then transmission is the thoroughly dependable and it's a great, I mean, I really like SRAM EXO axis. It's a great group set. I like these cranks. They're super tough. I think they actually look better once they start to get some wear on them. And then you've got EXO rear mech, Eagle T-type transmission, 1052, all that good stuff. However, you'll realise this is quite a heavy hitting bike. I mean, 150mm fork on the front, but then you've got Maven brakes up here, Maven Silvers. I mean, basically DH Enduro and e-bike brakes, those really. Now, even with 180mm rotor, front and rear, these are serious stoppers, you know, proper anchors. And for a midweight bike, you know, they might seem overkill, but then again, you've got a Minion DHR2 in EXO Plus protection spec on the back. So that's an 1100 plus gram tyre. And, you know, so it's a proper chunky build, is this. The actual frame weight, 2.92 kilos with that shock, isn't too bad. But once you've got all these parts on it, even with this pivot carbon bar, you're looking at and it's a steel saddle as well. It's not fancy or tyre or anything like that. And then while the DT Swiss XM 1700 wheels are really durable, super reliable wheel set, they aren't particularly light, and they're alloy, which again for just under 10k, that seems quite a lot. I mean, you can get a version with Reynolds Black Label carbon wheels on, but then you're looking at another 1200 quid on top of that. So again, what was I trying to get to the point? The point is I'm trying to make is it has the potential to be light if you threw even more money at it, but as it stands, it's about 14.5 kilos without pedals, but I think in the top spec version it's just under 13 kilos. So yeah, it has the potential to be pretty damn light for this much travel, but even at just shy of 10k, it's still a relatively chunky bike. So that is your component spec, and I think you'll probably agree it's got some making up to do at this point in terms of proving its worth. So let's start talking about the details on there. What pivot called a hollow core frame. It uses a very high pressure, in some places a solid mandrel system for making sure there's minimum sort of resin or voids in the frame set. They pivot inspect every frame that comes into their assembly plant. So they're not just taking a percentage sample, they check every frame. And I have to say, just things like the pivot quality, you've got these big bore bearings all the way through. And just when you take the shock out, it's just so super smooth. The alignment's excellent, everything like that. It is a beautifully put together frame. And Pivot have always had that on their side. Their QC has always been absolutely spectacular. And it's just really nicely put together. Bearings are in the linkages rather than in the frame, so it's easy to replace. You've got short linkages, big tough linkages as well. I mean, there's a fair amount of weight in there, I would imagine, but again, just really helps that back end tracking, keeps it really, really tight at the back. And also, while it's a bit of a pain in the arse, it's a lot of a pain in the arse in terms of replaceable wheel options, they run Super Boost, which is 157 mil from across the axle tips rather than 148 mil for boost. So that gives them a wider stance at the rear end, which gives them more tyre space there. And it means they can do that with a relatively short rear end, 433 mil, but so not super short. But together with, here's another one, press fit bottom bracket. Yep, you thought you'd seen the last of them, but Pivot are still using them. And they reckon their frames are high enough quality that they don't have any issues with the press fit rather than thread and bottom bracket. Yeah, we'll just really have to take their word for that, won't we? I mean, certainly. I've been riding this a month and it's been fine, but I think you want this to last longer than that. But you do get a lifetime warranty on the frame now, so that's all good. But yeah, press fit bottom bracket, Super Boost rear end. That'll be a no for some people already. I can see why. I can see why. It just makes spares potentially more of an issue going forwards. However, in terms of other nice practical detailings, you've got this locked cabling here, so it actually clamps it really tightly in place, so that's not rattling around, and there's no tube trunking inside, but because it's clamped top and bottom, that keeps it really quiet. And obviously, as this isn't running a mech cable because it's axis, then you get little blanking plates there and there. And then you've got this new tool shed, their new internal storage system, and plenty of length. It goes right down, proper full length tube. When it comes with 2 bags, nice little grey bags. However, oh, and the other thing, because the way that Pivot have made it, they reckon it only adds 50 grams in terms of weight, structural weight. It's not heavily reinforced, although the hatch obviously adds a little bit on top of that. However, as you can see, it's quite a low volume tube, and you have to be very selective with actually what you put in the sleeve to make sure you can get it in and out again. I've actually got, rather than a normal multi-tool, I've actually got wolf tooth 16-bit pliers in there, because I've had to deliberately sort of cherry pick what bits are going in there, basically only choose thin stuff. But if you were to put broader multi-tool in there, it doesn't really play properly in terms of getting it in and out easily. And although in theory you should be able to stuff a inner tube in the second bag, which goes upstream of a hatch, even with a TPU tube, it's a real struggle. So I haven't been using that recently, just because it's too hard to get the tube out. And I think if you were to have a trailside incident, the whole point of this is it's handy and convenient to get stuff out of, but that's the last thing it is. But you know, there are again nice details. It's got a rubber backing on there to keep things quiet, and a little magnetic clip there for your split link. So, you know, it's kind of frustrating because in some ways they're really thinking of the details nicely, and then in others it's not quite as practical as it could be. But you know, while we're still on this side, but you've got ISCG tabs down there for your chain guide. You've got a very nice sort of, you know, actually just sits slightly proud of the chainstay there, this protector, and then it runs all the way up round inside the seat stay there as well, and a bit more padding there, and you've got a little rubber boot there to stop grit and everything dropping down into that linkage and crushing against the frame, so that's all good. It's a single piece rear swing arm, so again, because it's shorter and broader, that makes it stiffer as well. And you've also got accessory mounts under the underside there for, you know, you could put a second bottle under there, maybe, if it was there, or at least a tool set. And Pivot do actually do some to peak collab bolt-on tools that go on as well there. And then if we flip it around the other side, you can see there's armour all the way around the belly there, but at least a rubber panel protecting you from a bit of flying rock damage. And if you look there, that lower shock linkage, that lower shock mount is actually reversible, and reversing that and then swapping that rocker linkage there is how this frame converts from the LT to the SL. So it's not, and also then you use a different length shock as well, but that means they can change the leverage appropriately. But it's not just a simple, you know, spacer change like it is on the Trek Top Fuel and some other bikes, just to sort of lengthen the stroke of the shock. You do have to buy new parts for it. And also what's quite interesting is they've used the same shock and same shock tune on this bike as they have on the Switchblade, which is 150, 160 mil, and on the Shuttle AM e-bike. So I did ask them about that, because it's not usually you get the same. I mean, obviously, you know, eye to eye length is fine, and even shock stroke is fine, but obviously it's running at a lower leverage than it is on those longer travel bikes. And so I was a bit surprised that the tune was the same, but they were like, well, we could have changed it, you know, we tested other tunes, but this is the tune we went with for that more supportive feel on the trail. So that's their decision. You've got to respect that. But, you know, like I say, go watch the live ride review to see what I really think of that decision on the trail. And while it does have a high-low chip, so you can run a mullet rear wheel without disturbing the geometry, that is so tight in this frame, I couldn't actually undo it without worrying about damaging the threads. Got a proper old long lever on there, but it still wasn't breaking loose. So, and it's 340 mil BB anyway, so that's more than high enough. I don't want to go any higher than that. If anything, I'd like to go lower than that. But it's there if you need it. But that's the only geometry on just. There's no head angle adjuster or anything like that on it. And obviously you have to take into account as the seat angle isn't coming off the BB, the more you raise the post, the more that seat angle will decrease. So I think officially it's 75.3, but on my ride height, it's more like 74.8 head angle, seat angle. But the head angle checks out, that's 65.3, as stated by Pivot and as measured by me in the workshop. And yeah, another thing to check, it should come with a 45mm stem. This one's come with a 55mm stem. Don't know why that is, but I think it would definitely be better with the 45mm stem. So if you are buying yourself a Pivot LT, then make sure it's got the right stem length on it. Oh, and finally, while, you know, it is clamped both ends, and I don't know, it's just that sort of flying in the wind. It's not rubbing on the paint, which is good, but that kind of flying in the wind does look a bit concerning. And I think if that was on the other side as well, which it will be if you're not running wireless, again, it's just not the neatest solution, is it? So I kind of sold you this, that I was going to really, really impress you with all the detailing on it. And then I've been a bit of a whiny bitch about it, haven't I? But I mean, there are some, the actual QC on this is superb. The finish is immaculate. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. And Pivot just have a really, really good reputation with their customers, which is why, you know, why they've been such a premium brand and commanded such a high price for so long. But obviously, you know, you've got to look at these features and what you want from a bike, structurally or aesthetically or aspirationally, and match that against how much money you've got to spend. But it does look absolutely gorgeous. Love that paint finish. And I think that's the best sort of Kashima to frame detail paint match I've ever seen, which isn't easy because Kashima is always a slightly different tone. You can see the seat post is just slightly different to the shock, but actually shock and fork are pretty good there. But yeah, a real head turner in terms of how it looks, but something of a chin stroker in terms of, you know, the actual practicality of some of the features. So there we go. That's my somewhat meandering. I've been up since 5:30 and it's now 11 o'clock and I've still got to shoot another video and get prepped to get on the road for 5:30 again to go and shoot another video, or the second half of the video I'm about to shoot. I'm doing my working out in my head, you don't really need to listen to this, but basically there's a change you can make to this bike, and I've already done it, I've already test ridden it, and that not only informed my kind of call out on this bike being a bit overdamped, but it also made it clear just how good this platform can be. So that's as much of a teaser as I'm going to give you, but make sure you watch not just the live ride video on this, but also the extra video that I'm going to do on this platform, because it is one of the few bikes that is offered with this particular option from Fox. Oh, that was a bit of a giveaway. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to do something with the suspension that really makes a massive difference. So watch the live ride, watch that video, click for notifications to make sure you don't miss any of the other content on here. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. That would be marvellous. It doesn't cost you anything. And I'm not going to harass you through your emails. I'm just too busy, to be honest, and it's not really my style. If you want to watch them, that's brilliant, but I'm not going to force you into it in the same way that I don't really like using clickbait or anything like that. And my voice is going now as well. So I should better wrap up by saying, give this a thumbs up, like, tell your mates about the channel. If you've got any more questions or you've got anything you just want to share about the Pivot, the Trailcat, what you think of the pricing of it, the spec on it, anything like that, or the detailing, whether you're a Super Boost fan and, you know, you've called your first child Press Fit because you think it's such a wonderful system, let me know. And also, you know, if you think a nice, God, no, I nearly overstepped the mark there. I nearly said if you think a nice tight slot is something you'd like in a bike, then anyway, moving on, yeah, get busy in the comments with any chat you want to have, and if you really want to support the channel, please consider subscribing on Patreon, which is just for a small amount per month via the link at the end. Go straight through Patreon, don't use the Apple app. They're being a bit of a pirate on that at the moment, but you know, a few quid from a few people a month makes a big difference to the sustainability of this channel. It means I can spend more time yabbering on about bikes to good folk like you. But for now, I've been Guy Kesteven on Guy Kes TV, talking you through the details of spec and features on Pivot's Trailcat LT. Thanks very much for watching.